What's up, butterfly?
Hey, Firefly, what's up?
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm so glad to see you.
I am glad to see you.
Well, guess what?
But
We have another rabbit hole.
oh my
We have
gosh.
kind of a fun one.
Yeah.
Um, is NASA evil? I'm wondering.
Kind of, I don't know. I think it kind of seems that way.
I think there's a lot of like weird stuff about NASA.
Yeah. Well, like with a lot of these rabbit holes where it all begins is we have some questions.
Kind of.
We have yeah, we have
Like
some
there was
questions.
this guy who was like in the cult, like doing like Aleister Crowley sex magic rituals, and he started like JPL Labs. He was
Mm.
like the Elon of the early 20s.
Oh my
He
gosh.
was like, Mr. I am a
I am
scientist.
space.
Yeah, and I'm very rich. And, I can't remember what his name was, but basically he was like his generation's Elon.
Wow, that is crazy.
But kind of like Elon too, like he was totally culty.
Ew.
Yeah. So he was like doing like this weird, like blood, sex, sugar magic, like Aleister Crowley stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of that kind of spawned NASA.
So, out of JPL, that's where NASA like came from.
Yeah, it kind of
Mm,
started in that milieu with like a bunch of Satan worshipers.
that doesn't sound right.
Sounds weird,
Yeah. Like,
And
why
then,
would that have anything to do with space exploration?
well,
You
he was
know?
doing rockets, right?
Yeah.
He was like studying rockets.
Yeah.
And so he was like, I'm studying rockets. And he was kind of like Elon, like, we're going to go to Mars. He was kind of like one of those guys.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if he was just a front man kind of back then to
Well,
go and start NASA, kind of the way that Doge now got started by Elon.
uh-huh.
Whoa, what if
Whoa.
that's like what's going on?
Yeah.
These guys go and start like big money laundering divisions of our government that just suck up taxpayer money.
That's kind of the way I think NASA sort of looks because,
Yeah.
I think we sort of like just touched on this topic once before, but that whole organization seems to spend a lot of money
Yeah.
and they seem
We don't
to
get a lot of return.
we don't really get much return, so I actually went to the NASA like headquarters or whatever in Houston
Yeah.
once. And I mean, I'm not really sure why I went there, but I guess curiosity,
Yeah.
And it's like they have this huge museum. Remember, we talked about big museum.
I wonder if they do satanic rituals in front of it, kind of like the way they did with CERN.
I wonder because they have the whole thing set up like little like rooms that are sort of like reenactments of different space explorations and stuff. And there's all
They
this
serve Kool-Aid at every little step.
they do, and they have like hands-on stuff that the kids can do and stuff like that. And then a huge gift shop where they're selling all their wares. They've got t-shirts and everything for like tons of money
And
and
what if it's as fake as Batman?
super fake. I mean, I don't know. Like you were saying, we don't get a lot of return. I'm just wondering what return do we get? So they're saying that we went to the moon in 1969, and what did that accomplish?
Well, did we go to the moon? I mean, that's what we're kind of like unpacking.
Right.
Like, first of all, every astronaut that went to the moon was a Freemason. That's kind of weird.
That's kind of weird. Why would they be Freemasons? Like, do they have to be a Freemason to be in NASA, or
Yeah,
does NASA only hire Freemasons?
yeah,
Like
I think that's it.
they put their little like like job placement
Well, what I know
advertisement out
about
there.
Freemasons is eventually you have to choose, like, do you like Jesus or Satan? And I
Hmm.
think you don't get promoted if you say Jesus.
Right.
You pretty much have to say, yes, I'll work for Satan. So I think they already kind of work for Satan.
Hmm.
Otherwise, they're not even picked for the program.
So you think that so you think they have to be Freemasons in order to like apply for the job?
I think not only Freemasons, they can't just be Johnny Lunchbucket Freemason that still might believe in Jesus, but just I'm a Freemason because it's part of the trades. No,
Yeah.
it's like, no, 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 no. I said I worship Satan. I
Uh-huh.
think that's kind of,
Or maybe they're like Freemasons or they're just regular guys or whatever, but they want to be astronauts, and so they're like, well, if you want to be an astronaut, you got to join the Freemasons Could
And
be
they're
that
like,
too.
here, just worship Satan, and then you can be an astronaut.
And maybe like the deeper they get or the more they get promoted, the deeper they go into the Freemasonry.
I just had an epiphany.
Oh my gosh.
I love it.
I love it too.
So wait, what if once you sell your soul to Satan, you can be MK Ultra real easily?
I was kind of having that same epiphany right then.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like I was thinking the same thing. Like once you kind of get in there, they know you're going to go like that far. Won't be too difficult to kind of like just swing you over the edge into like being MK Ultra.
You're easily deceived.
Yeah,
And then what did we kind of like
easily
touch on?
manipulated.
Well, yeah. Like, what if there was no moon landing that was created by
Stanley Kubrick
Stanley Kubrick in
or
a
somebody else.
yeah, and that was all done in a studio in like Burbank.
Yeah,
But the astronauts were actually MK Ultra and kind of like Sirhan.
that's what I'm thinking.
And then they actually disassociated themselves to the moon.
Hmm. I think that's what happened because I think there's too many quote astronauts involved in all of these things to not have some of these secrets leak. You know what I mean? Somewhere along the line, somebody would want to write a tell-all book or
They
something.
have to have
You know,
been MK Ultra.
I think they were.
That's like the seal that
Yeah,
doesn't let them ever divulge.
yeah. So I picture like, and I'm not really even sure. I kind of think maybe it wasn't Stanley Kubrick because I'm thinking like whoever directed this was probably MK Ultra also, you know,
Well, the
and
only
didn't tell
reason
the secret.
I think it might be him is because someone was saying if you watch The Shining and you break it down and you like slow it down and pause it in certain points, there's all these weird references to the moon landing,
Interesting.
which is weird.
Yeah,
That's like his big opus, right? So I don't know.
could be, but
And he
it
also did
the
2001,
Space Odyssey.
which was kind of like culty.
Yeah, and that could have been like, sort of like a
I
reinvention.
think I think he might have been in the cult and then said,
Regretted it
I don't want to be in this cult anymore. And
anymore.
then he made Eyes Wide Shut.
Hmm.
And then did you ever hear how Eyes Wide Shut, like he turned in the draft and they went, yeah, yeah. The cult went, yeah, you can make this. This is good, 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 good. And then he didn't
He
tell
had a
them,
meeting with the you-know-whos.
yeah, exactly. And the
They
you know who's who, like, Harvey Weinstein and all the other you know who's, they all went, yeah, yeah, no, 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 that's a good movie. That's a good movie. Go ahead and make that. But then he added in the last part
a
where
sneaky extra
Tom
scene.
Cruise sneaks into the cult ceremony
Uh-huh.
and shows what the cult ceremony is about and how they sacrificed a girl.
Oh,
And he added that in post because remember that movie was long,
it was super long. Yeah.
and you're going,
It was
what?
really creepy.
It was creepy,
I
kind
didn't
of
like it.
boring, kind of
Yeah.
episodic.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the whole reason he made that, you know how we kind of talked about this concept of entertainment's not really the point of movies anymore.
No, and
It's programming.
I don't I don't think it has been for a long time. I mean, I think maybe it was more entertainment related a long time ago, but I think that for a very long time it's been about social engineering.
Like entertainment's kind of incidental.
Right.
I think with Eyes Wide Shut,
And
entertainment was incidental.
yeah, and they know that they can like suck people in with entertainment because they'll want to watch this and
It's titillating. There's lots of
it's
fucking.
yeah, well, and there's like or violence or whatever, but they'll get people sucked in and watch these things and then like while they're watching, they'll insert these little tidbits of social engineering and brainwashing.
And I think his point there might have been like, if I'm reading the tea leaves right, anti-cult, because he was kind of saying, look, these people
Kind of show you.
they do like sex rituals and then they sacrifice women. And this is like who we are in this country. And they went, we don't want you really saying that. And then I think he got unalived.
Mm,
His daughter says he got unalived.
really?
I think she kind of puts that out there. Like
That's
he died
interesting.
like right after it came out. Like it was weird. He
Hmm.
seemed healthy, and it was kind of like He got Carrie Mullis in
suddenly.
the middle of nowhere.
Gosh, that's sad. So maybe he did direct the moon landing because I definitely think that that was fake. I mean, I think back in 1969, people were very like more innocent and believed, really more people believed what they were seeing from like Walter
Absolutely.
Cronkite on the news. And
Absolutely.
the whole family would gather around the TV and watch, and they were super excited.
Well, think
And
about how many lies we've seen now that surrounded Vietnam,
I know.
that people just swallowed and sent their kids to go die in that horrible, like unjust war.
Yeah, because people thought, the government had their best interests in mind, and it's like, so I think,
I just had another epiphany.
what
Okay. So
you're on fire.
Kennedy got killed in 63, right? And he was kind of saying, we want to go to the moon, right?
Mhm.
That's what we want to do. And so I think maybe he was earnest about let's make an attempt.
Like he really thought it was a good idea.
He thought it was a good idea. Let's spend the money. Let's do the technology. Let's go to the moon. But then I think when they shot him, that was a coup. And
Mhm.
I think the you know who's kind of took over our country then.
I think so too.
I think they started to kind of take over back in 1913 when they put in the Federal Reserve,
Mhm.
but then they didn't have full control until
Well,
they killed
because
Kennedy.
Kennedy was kind of starting to go off the rails. Like he was starting to, he wanted to do a lot of things that
He was acting
weren't,
like Kanye kind
yeah,
of.
they weren't going along with the program.
He was like Kanye Kennedy. He started saying stuff like, secret societies are repugnant to a free society.
Mm,
They don't like that.
they don't like that at all.
And then he said, we want to have a greenback dollar. It's gold backed and it's not based on fiat currency. They're like, we don't like that,
Mm-mm.
you know? But then what really made him mad was he was like, I don't want to get involved in Vietnam. But they're like, no, we're gonna have to kill you for that
We
because we
have
really want to go there.
we have to have constant wars, just like in 1984.
And then the
It was
people are sitting there in their living rooms with the TV was still kind of new. So
hmm
think about how mesmerizing, like whenever I hear my parents talking about growing up in the 60s, like people watch TV like
yeah.
a lot.
Well, I
Like even
mean,
college kids like gather around to watch like episodes of The Fugitive and
it
stuff.
was exciting, to have because before that, what did they have? Radio. So
And
they would
TV
sit
was
around and
awesome back then.
yeah, they would sit around and listen to radio and they could go to the movie theater and see a movie once in a while.
Yeah,
But to have that in your house must have been like really exciting,
it was. It was cool.
and they could tune in, and the moon landing was like a very uniting thing. We talked about this on another episode. Everybody was, for it and it sounded exciting. But back to my question, like what really did we get from that? If in fact we did go to the moon, and a lot of people think we did, so what did we get from
I
doing
guess
that?
it was a big win in this artificial Cold War.
Mm,
It was like
okay.
Cold War kind of like a race with Russia because they had monkeys and Sputnik and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
I think there was kind of that going on. But I think, what if that's all fake?
Right.
You know?
I think it is because if we
Because didn't the you know
staged
who's run Russia?
yeah, and if we staged our moon landing, then I'm sure they staged theirs too.
That was probably part of it.
you know.
And what if that was all just a big money laundering scheme? Because look how much money we sent into those programs.
So there's all kinds of grants and tons of money going into this NASA to explore outer space and
Yeah.
like go to Mars and stuff.
Like why?
But why? They won't even let us go to Antarctica.
I know.
Maybe we should go there first.
Let's scope out this whole Earth.
Yeah. Like let's go there first and explore
We
and
don't even know if it's flat.
right.
I mean, we don't even know that. I don't care about other planets yet. We haven't fully like come
We
to a
haven't
conclusion
fully
here.
explored this one.
I mean,
if there are other planets.
if they just said, by the way, NASA's canceled, we're not doing any more space exploration, I'd be like, that's cool with
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, like, would it really hurt us? Because
They always kind of they
what are
call
we
these
gaining?
satellites. Are we
Yeah,
getting
I
satellites?
know.
And what is that? That's like they're like direct energy weapons. They're good for
Well,
those.
and they're, like, spying on us,
Spying on
you know?
us, I don't
I mean,
know.
I think that's the goal of these satellites. They're supposedly collecting information, but really what they're doing is they're going around, like, eh, nuking us with radiation while
Have you
they
ever heard how
spy
many
on
there?
us. Mm-mm.
I heard there's like so many satellites orbiting the Earth. It's like insane.
I bet. That's why we're all getting sick all the time and
Yeah.
getting cooties.
And what the hell are those? Why do we need that many satellites?
Yeah, because 'cause they're spying on us.
They're spying on us. They're doing us.
Yeah, we're
Do
getting
me,
duped.
baby. Do me, baby. Because I think that's how the dues work.
Yeah,
Did you know that Maui fire, there was 2 satellites that were lined up when they started, they were perfectly aligned above the spot where the fire started?
interesting.
Nothing to see there.
No.
So, I don't know, I'm starting to think that NASA is a big money grab.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, if, like you said, like, if we just canceled NASA, like, tomorrow and there was no more NASA, would that really affect anybody?
I'd kinda be stoked.
Would that
Like,
have any effect on anybody?
let's
Like,
use
think about
all
it.
the money that we have for NASA to make
Yeah,
sure that, like,
the veterans have, like,
veterans and
care.
like people born in this country that are like their ancestors created this country like we want white people like they're all good.
Yeah,
Once all the white people are good, then we can maybe start tuck aside some money for space travel,
charity.
whatever. Charity, yeah, well, how about charity?
Yeah,
Like we just like, no, we're going to Mars.
yeah,
I don't know, and maybe it's also kind of like um also they're always kind of getting you to say science,
right.
like because science is a cult, a big powerful cult.
It is,
It's
and
like global warming and we went to the moon.
well, the people that go along with this are all in that cult and they're all brainwashed, right?
Yeah,
I mean, this is gonna, like, probably piss some people off to hear this, but
science is
it's
a
an
cult.
observation. So, the whole NASA thing and moon landing, um, you know, to me, I mean, like, back in 1969, it probably looked fantastic, but now that we have, better technology and better ways to film,
Like the dude talking on
like
the phone,
movies
the
and stuff.
wired phone. I'm talking to the guy on the moon, hold on.
It's kinda like when you watch when you watch, like, Guardians of the Galaxy now or, like, the new Star Wars, you're like, "Wow, that's really cool," but then when you watch, like, the older versions of the sci-fi movies, like, that were made in, like, the '70s and '80s, you're like, "Oh, it looks kinda corny. It looks kinda fake."
Chewbacca was totally like crusty
It
looking.
looks kinda fake.
Like, yeah,
So
I
it's
don't
like
know. I
it's like
mean, it was like
watching
bad special effects back then.
yeah, so watching like, looking at the moon landing, the footage and the pictures and stuff, it doesn't look very high tech, and if they were able to, like, fly all the way to the moon, I would think that some of it would look kinda high tech.
You'd want to
You
have
know what
like
I
the
mean?
best cameras.
Yeah, I mean, even with a crappy camera, I would think it would look a little more high tech, and so I'm picturing, like, some sort of deserty kind of area that maybe like sort of Simi Valley type situation, and maybe a soundstage, and maybe like the astronauts were taken to this place, and they were all MK Ultra, and
Yeah.
maybe they put them in like some kind of room that they could like kind of shake up a little bit or something, and they like shook them up, and they're like,
So
you're on your way."
so their disassociation was like kind of real.
Yeah.
It was like being on Star Tours.
Yeah, like being on Star Tours at Disneyland.
Yeah.
Totally. Like you for like 5 minutes you feel like, "Wow, I'm really going somewhere."
Taking off.
And you never moved. You moved like 3 inches in your seat. Like but
You
with
know what also never made sense?
what?
Have you ever seen like the dynamics of how the rocket takes off and then this part falls away and then this part falls away and then this part falls away and then they're like in this little like bathroom sized capsule and that goes to the moon
Yeah,
and then they get back to Earth in that.
I know.
That's kind of weird.
Where did they get the fuel to come back?
That's just in that little bathroom
And
sized capsule.
and that little car, that moon rover that they drove around,
They're cruising on that.
that was in the capsule too?
Yeah, that was just like
They drove that out of the
I know
capsule.
so many weird things. and then they just come back, and then it's like, I don't know. And then how about all the like interviews with them when they come back?
I know.
Because then the press has the field day, and it's like,
Right.
oh, so I think that's a boon for like TV,
Oh, totally.
and then a boon for science.
Everybody wanted to watch that,
When I was in Costco the other day, they were selling TVs, and they had like footage, quote unquote, of the moon.
oh, really?
Because like NASA just released new footage. Now this the moon. And it's like, well, maybe not. This the moon.
Well,
Shut up.
we have really good Photoshop now.
Yeah.
So, I'm pretty sure we can make it look a lot better than it did in 1969.
They can go cruise around Simi Valley and just go like put a filter on it and go, that's the moon.
Yeah, get in your moon rover and then just like go off road and drive around like that deserty area.
Because I saw
Kind of looks moonish.
this one dude, he was looking at some of the moon footage, and it looked like a rabbit was like in the footage. And they were
So
all,
they have rabbits on the moon?
that's what they're saying. Or they were just filming the Earth, and a rabbit got in the shot, and they forgot to edit him out.
There are rabbits in Simi Valley.
You know what I'm saying?
Just saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because yeah, they're going, there's rabbit on the moon. If there's rabbits, there must be oxygen. Or maybe
Yeah,
it's a,
and
you know
other
what it
animals.
is? Um, it's a drone, or it's a clone. Maybe they cloned rabbits and put them on the moon.
Yeah,
That's
maybe,
probably what happened.
and maybe there's like dire wolves up there too.
There's dire wolves. That's where they
And
have.
rabbits.
That's where they have them.
The cloned sheep, all the cloned sheep that they did in the
And
90s.
Jeffrey Epstein and P Diddy, maybe they're up there.
Oh
That's where they
yeah.
go. They have like a
I
space
I
station.
would be glad if they were there and not Antarctica, because I know I keep telling you this, but I really want to go to Antarctica.
Oh,
I
I
don't
go
want
to
those.
Antarctica.
I don't want those nasty people there
I don't want to
polluting
go to the
it.
moon. I
Yeah,
have no desire.
I don't want to go to the moon either.
Like even if we had like a killer, like, oh, take a trip to the moon for a week,
Yeah,
I'd be like, nah,
no, I don't want to do
I
that.
don't care.
No.
Go. It'd be like, you know what they would do with the moon because you can't breathe. So just if we could go to the moon, which I don't think we can,
Yeah.
it would be like a mall. They would create like a
I know.
mall on the moon.
They're probably creating that somewhere,
And
like
like,
out in like the Mojave Desert.
yeah,
They're gonna create that, and they're gonna send people are gonna pay like millions of dollars to like go to the moon,
to disassociate and
and they'll
think that
put them
they're
in
on
the
the moon.
little box that they used for like the astronauts, and they'll shake them up for a few hours, and they'll be like, "We're on your way, we're on your way." And
Okay.
they'll drop them off in the Mojave Desert.
Just gallons of Kool-Aid. Here,
Yeah,
just continuously like pumping you full of Kool-Aid the whole time. Because that's kind of what you have to do.
I know.
They have to just be like intravenously like force feeding you Kool-Aid in order for you to go along with this crap.
Totally.
There was another video. Do you know who Paul Joseph Watson is?
No.
He's like one of these guys who kind of started off with Alex Jones and then
Oh.
broke off into his own thing.
Uh-huh.
And he's just kind of like he's in the UK, he does like political commentary, right?
Okay.
So apparently this like influencer on YouTube spent like you said like $1 million and went up into orbit,
Oh.
quote unquote.
Hmm.
And then while she was up there, instead of looking out the window, she was staring in the little camera and doing like a TikTok video of herself.
Sounds so TikTok-y.
So everything about that kind of suggests that it's cult.
Yeah.
Like she seems like a full-on disassociative clone. Like she's a walker.
Hmm.
She's a
She's a
walker.
walker. Yeah.
She's a walker, so she's disassociative.
Yeah.
So she's
So she'll
thinking,
believe that she's like at the moon.
yeah. And so, who knows? Maybe she was in like some pressure chamber in London, but she's like quote unquote in orbit.
I'm on the moon. I'm near the moon and I'm gonna film myself.
Here I am.
So like I'm not even sure that the moon is like a planet or a rock or something, because I've seen evidence that kind of supports the idea that it's sort of like a plasma
Yeah,
reflector.
I've heard that. That's
And
the flat Earth theory.
yeah,
They think that the moon is like a plasma and it's not even a real physical thing
no, and
because you can see through it during the day.
yeah, and it's sort of there like all day long. Like if you look up, like, shouldn't we not be able to see it during the daytime?
If the science is the
You
way the
know?
science is, right?
Yeah.
We're moving away from it. We're turning away.
Yeah. So we can see it. And, if you ever watch that series that I highly recommend, The Lost History of Part Earth, 7-part series, in part
The
5,
lost history of flat Earth.
What? Yeah. What did I say?
Part Earth.
Oh, partial Earth.
It's
The lost
The Lost History of
of
Flat
flat
Earth,
Earth.
Part
Part
7.
seven. Part a 7-part series.
7-part
Yeah.
series.
So part 5 is quite eye-opening, and they talk about the moon and what actually it could be, and it's pretty
The Bible says the
obvious.
moon is a light for night,
Could it be
like a light.
could it yeah, and could it be like a reflector of us?
Could be, could be just that
Could it be like maybe a mirror image of
of our
our Earth?
Earth. Yeah. And we'll see, there's so many
Is that
questions.
possible?
It's
If you
possible.
look at it and zoom in.
I know. And it looks like a continent on
Yeah.
there, like the reflection
Hmm.
of what our continent's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
But that still begs the question. I mean, we have like a space program, and now, the Trump cult people are going to be upset with us because Trump just did Space Force. It's Air Force, and now it's Space Force.
So we're going to spend more money on space.
We're going to have a whole like arm of the military. Why do we need military action up there? I
Right.
guess we're fighting wars. It's
I
like Star
mean,
Wars.
oh, Star Wars. Maybe there's like aliens out there that are
That's what it
really
is.
like aggressive.
We got to fight ETs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there could be like Klingons and stuff that,
And Lindsey Graham is like, we need to have money in our defense budget for this because we're going to be fighting ETs.
we never know how they
You
are.
know what I'm saying? I think, dude, the more I think about it, there's so many anomalies. I don't believe NASA. I don't believe NASA
No,
is NASA.
I don't either. And I think that like so many of the other organizations,
Oh,
I think,
did you hear about? Remember when we were in school, the the Challenger crash. It blew up,
yeah, yeah.
and then
And they made us watch it.
yeah, they're like here
That's kind of
trauma.
it's traumatizing.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind
because
of not cool.
that's how they do mind control. It's
Mhm.
trauma based.
Yes.
So that might have been totally a trauma that was just like fake, but it was to traumatize the kids. Because remember, we had to watch it.
Yeah.
All the kids like, we're putting the TV in here and watch.
You
And they
know
rolled the
what?
TV in.
And you know what? They do that with all the kids' movies. Have you noticed that? We're gonna have to
They
do a whole episode on
they
this.
foist them on the
They
kids.
no, every like story that they tell children, like think about it, Cinderella, um, all of them, they all start with trauma. It's like usually the mom dies, the mom of
Oh
the main
yeah, yeah,
character
yeah.
dies, like some tragic death or she's already dead. Um, and then the child is an orphan or doesn't have a mother. So
You know why they do
they're
that?
traumatizing
The
kids.
trauma, they did the same thing with 9/11. 9/11 was a big trauma. And
Yeah,
then look, after 9/11, people went into like serious mind control
totally.
because
It's
once you're
easier
traumatized,
to
you're afraid,
yeah,
and then you're suggestible.
it's easier to control your mind if you're afraid
So remember
and
they did
traumatized.
remember the joke came out after Challenger, what?
Oh my gosh.
Epiphany?
Well, this is what they do with MK Ultra people
They
when
traumatize them.
they traumatize them.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's how because once you're afraid, now you're suggestible.
Mhm.
And they've learned that.
And they can control you.
Which is so lame. Think about the research. It was kind of like the
It's
Beagles
so
research that
sick.
Fauci was doing.
They've done some really sick
And it's
things.
like, let's traumatize this child and see if we can control their minds.
Ugh.
But anyways, that was kind of like Aldous Huxley's voice. I don't know if he did that, but anyways, um, what I was thinking was the Challenger, right? So
Mhm.
it blew up.
Yeah.
We had to watch.
Yeah.
And then remember they made that funny joke. It was like, what does NASA stand for? I don't know. Need another 7 astronauts.
Oh gosh, that's
It
horrible.
was pretty bad. And Krista McAuliffe was like the teacher that died. And we were told, 'cause I was in fourth grade, they're like, we just lost a teacher. She died. She was in that explosion.
And
She
all the kids
died.
were like, well, we wish our teacher was
I
in that.
know. Why couldn't have been you?
We'd get a day off.
But
No.
then here's another anomaly about
Mhm.
that, though. All of those quote unquote astronauts, when you go research them, they kept
They're
living.
they're out there.
They're
I've seen
all
that.
living.
I've seen that. People have actually researched it, and all of those people, unless all 7 of them have doppelgangers and look exactly like them and are doing the same kind of work that those people did before, they're all out there. So those 7 people didn't die.
They didn't die.
So were they MK Ultra'd
Yeah,
or are they just keeping a really tight secret?
I think they were.
Because
I don't
it's like they have to
know.
be like in a witness protection program, basically, right? Like if you say you were, like married to the teacher that and she's like, "Honey, I've been chosen to go into this space program, and I'm going to go up to the moon." And then she goes, and then she supposedly dies. What happens then? Like, do you have to like start a new life
You know
somewhere?
what they
And
might do is they might have handlers because someone that high profile, you have to make sure they never
they
spill the
never
beans.
spill the beans.
So they probably have handlers who
Hmm.
like maybe even live with them full time. And it's like, no, hey, wait, no, you're getting out of line.
So those people can't really have families or anything like that,
Well, it seems like
right?
she was married. Another one had just a regular
S-
job. I don't
So then do they
know.
have to MK Ultra like the husband too and get him to
Or
go along with
maybe
it?
maybe they come out and they do tell the truth, but people are just like, oh, what a whack job that person is. Or maybe they just get shadow banned and none of their stories get out. And they're
Mm.
not allowed to publish their book in any kind of way. Who knows?
Like they would tell a neighbor or something somewhere
You
that
would think.
would like, spill the beans,
And
you
maybe the
know.
neighbor is so like MK Ultra they can't like grasp it.
I think everybody involved in these things are MK Ultra'd.
I think so too. I think you have to kind of just be like, oh yeah, I did that. And then you
Mhm.
go, but wait a minute, if it blew up and you died, how come you're still living?
Because
It's like, you're a bad person.
they just tweak the trigger switch on them, and
Yeah.
now they're MK Ultra'd into believing that they're a professor at some university somewhere, and the husband goes along with it too because he's been tweaked also.
What if you show them a video of the Challenger blowing up, quote unquote, which I don't believe was true. That was probably just like some missile they shot up
That
in
was
the
a
air.
trauma situation.
Yeah. And then you show them it and they go into some kind of a weird, like mental downward spiral because they've been blocking that out because MK Ultra was like, that didn't really happen. Go be a teacher.
So they like escape the MK Ultra when they see
Yeah.
it.
Like they see it and they go, oh my
I
gosh,
think what
that was me.
happens when that happens is I think either they re MK Ultra them or they have to unalive them.
You know what it reminds me of? Do you know what is her name? What's that blonde lady who was born into the MK Ultra thing?
Oh yeah.
What's her name?
I listened to her whole she wrote a book, right? And there's
Hmm.
like a documentary about her.
So what she
Um
talks about is so
it's a lot of trauma.
her dad like started like having sex with her at like 6 months old.
Oh God.
Isn't that crazy?
That's that's really demented.
Gnarly, right?
Yeah.
And then, then he starts like taking sex pictures of her and trying to mail them to people.
Oh God.
And yeah,
It's like he had the child just to be like a tool.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like I noticed that child sex trafficking is one of those things you can't talk about. They get really mad.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want you to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, no, we like our child sex trafficking. It's a very specific thing that they really like. But anyways, so one of the senators was like, well, you could go to jail or you could just Kathy. Her name's
Yeah.
Kathy O'Brien.
Yeah.
So Kathy O'Brien, her dad sells her into the MK Ultra program. And she said what they do when she's like 6, they torture you. And when they torture you, then they rape you. So they torture and rape.
More torture.
And she said what ends up happening is you become a
Disassociated.
you're dissociative, but you're also multiple personality. You're kind of like Sybil.
Oh.
You've got multiple personalities
To
now.
try to separate yourself from the event.
And your brain compartmentalizes trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So what if that's what happens with these people who are part of these big conspiracies? Because I'm a conspiracy theorist, I'm a bad person. So I think there are conspiracies.
Yeah.
I think there are. What if they have compartmentalized the trauma so that it doesn't even exist? Because what she said she had to do in order to kind of get better, that one dude like rescued her from MK Ultra,
Mm-hmm.
her and her daughter. She got pregnant from some weird senator who just like came inside of her. And then, yes, so gnarly, right?
So gross.
The specifics of her situation are really like, I'm like one of those kind of sick, perverted dudes. I'm like, tell me more. But, anyways, so she gets pregnant, and her daughter are in the MK Ultra program, and some dude like rescued them.
Yeah.
And she said when she first got rescued, she couldn't really deal with her feelings. She had to sit down and write, and then she began to access those traumas through writing because her it was almost like subconscious. Like
Yeah.
she had to like tap into her subconscious because there was too many compartmentalized like blocking mechanisms going on. So I'm wondering if that's how they get people to not talk. Maybe they do
Torture.
torture and trauma, and just like
Mhm.
we're gonna torture you and then probably rape you, even if you're a dude, and just like make that kind of happen because again, like the Beagles with Dr. Fauci, they do research like this, and they go, "Well, what happens is we torture the person and then we
Well,
rape you."
and they have no like they have like no qualms about doing random research on people without them knowing it. Like
Yeah.
it's really bizarre. Like I just heard about the CIA did a bunch of research in the I think it was like the 60s and 70s with LSD,
Mhm.
and I guess they um at one point even sprayed like this party, I think it was in San Francisco, with some kind of aerosol LSD to see like how people would react, and they used to
That'd be
they
awesome.
used to spray it in like apartment buildings and hotels. Like can you imagine? Like
I totally could.
so
All
they
of a sudden you're tripping, and then you don't really know why you're tripping.
yeah, but I mean for the CIA to do something like that without, I mean
I don't
it's
think
one
they're
it,
nice.
no, it's one thing if they said, "Hey, we're going to do this experiment
Would you like to
and we
volunteer?
want a test group and would you like to volunteer and these are the things that could happen and we're going to keep you in this like warehouse
Yeah.
while we do this." But that doesn't sound like that's what they did.
What if they
It sounds
go,
like they just randomly did it to people
no, they totally
who
did.
didn't know what was
But
going
what
on.
if they did have kind of like a release form that you sign first? But they go, one of the side effects is you might hang yourself from a doorknob by a scarf.
Yeah. Well, we know they did. We know that they have that ability too.
They're all, that might happen, but do you still want to be a part of it?
And a lot of people would be like, "Yeah, sure, okay, that won't happen to me."
Like out of the party of 100 people, like four people went and hung themselves with scarves.
There's like people hanging by they put a bunch of scarves out there just in case
Just laying them
people
out
want
just in case some
just
other people might need them.
they put like maybe 50 out
Which
just
is,
they
yeah,
go, "Oh, we only got 4, but okay, whatever. We'll mark that down in the research."
you know what? That's such a good point, though. Like the CIA is kind of dicks.
I think they're not
I
nice.
think they're dicks.
Yeah.
I think they kind of do fucked up
I
shit.
don't think they're really looking out for us.
No,
You know what I
I
mean?
think they're just like really stoked on like controlling people and killing people. I think that's like what they're really good at.
Yeah, and they like to do research.
They love that. Well, the research is always in the
Let's
service of controlling.
let's find out what this mind-altering drug does to people,
Yeah.
you know,
Or let's rape and torture this 5-year-old and just see
and
what
see what
happens.
happens.
And then,
Yeah.
wow, check it out. So, like what Kathy O'Brien said is after they raped and tortured her, they were able to use her as like a sex op because she could be like kind of Sirhan. She'd get pinched, and then she would go into sex mode, and she would just go be like the pleasure giver
Ugh,
without any kind of concept of whether it was right or wrong or anything. She just went and gave pleasure. And that was how she got that. She was used like that for like a decade, which is
it's horrible.
gnarly.
Yeah,
But point being is, I think that might be how people don't tell.
I think so too.
Like the astronauts might have been, I don't know if they were raped.
It might have
What if they
been
were all raped?
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised,
Buzz
and
Lightyear
tortured. Yeah.
or Buzz Aldrin?
Yeah.
He got raped.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I think that they'll stop at nothing to,
Yeah.
get the kind of control that they want over people. And if they decided that we're going to go to the moon and we're going to like film this whole thing and make it real, they're going to make sure that they've got like the actors that they need on board and fully manipulated so that they don't spill the beans.
You know what I'm kind of
Because,
pissed about? My grandpa got
um,
because my grandpa, well, maybe my grandpa was right and I'm being fooled. Maybe we're completely off base, which I don't think so.
maybe.
But Maybe more.
Maybe that moon rover was real
It
and
was
that
all real.
Nixon was really calling with a landline to the moon.
Called with a landline with a wire because
Because they could have been like, wiring the all the way up. They could have had like
use a few miles of
miles of
wire.
wire
Yeah,
going all.
you're so dumb that you don't know that. But anyways, my grandpa worked on cameras that were used in the moon landing.
Mhm. So the cameras he worked on could have been the very ones that took those pictures.
Could have been. But he was really adamant about, yeah, we went to the moon. That was like what we did.
Well, he probably felt like he had an important part in this like huge endeavor and he was probably proud of it and
Do you
stuff.
know what I just thought of?
What?
I think they started to master MK Ultra, mass MK Ultra probably when TV came out.
Oh,
Because
that
TV
was
is
the perfect
television.
way to do it.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
television,
Yeah.
right? And what do they call shows on TV? They're called programs.
Yeah. Totally.
So what if TV was actually a big mind control device?
And they're like, they saw that it works and they're like, wow,
They're like, this works
this stuff works.
better than we thought. Like
Let's just
everybody,
let's like really do this.
let's go to Vietnam and to the moon. And
Yeah.
that's what.
The moon is sky's the limit.
And then also they ushered in like the Beatles come in '64, and I'm starting to think like everybody's like the Beatles just love, love, love. And don't get me wrong, I love the Beatles and I love Bob Dylan, but what if they were like bad people working with the CIA?
Yeah. Well, I'm starting to think that, music, Hollywood, all that stuff is all government mind control.
They're so just all about controlling us.
Mhm.
But then there's people like us who just like, even though I have watched hours and hours of movies and TV
Mhm.
and I've done all their drugs, but still I'm like, I kind of see through your lies. I don't know why.
Um, yeah, that's really interesting. Like,
We're not followers.
that's what it all boils down
It
to,
all
I think.
boils down to that. We go
Yeah.
like even if the whole group is going that way, I'm gonna go, why? What are you guys doing? I want to know why. And before I go, I need to be confirmed. Whereas other people, they see a whole bunch of people going, they go, I'm going to.
It just reminds me of that meme that came out during the cooties with it shows like 1,000 sheep like walking towards the cliff and then there's one black sheep that's like, "Where are you going?"
Yeah,
But they're
that was
all
us.
yeah, they're all going like gonna fall off the cliff and we're like, I don't think so."
I'm going to wear my mask. I was thinking about the masks yesterday
Mhm.
because you know how you were saying, oh God, because like for our podcast, you got to kind of go on Instagram
I
and you have to
know.
kind of manage
And
it.
I feel kinda dirty when I go on Instagram.
What if we had to like wear like a mask? That's like I could almost see like
Like a
having to wear.
digital mask.
Yeah,
Well, you kinda do.
you kind of do.
You kinda like, you have to kinda jump through the hoops and, like, do certain things, and, like, if you put out the wrong hashtags, you'll get shadow banned.
Yeah,
So, it's really kinda weird.
you kind of have to wear a mask. Like
Yeah,
your name is Butterfly and I'm Firefly.
right.
That's kind of like our mask
Yeah.
because you can't just be yourself in social media
Mm-mm.
because nobody is.
No.
Because oh my God, that's a epiphany.
Oh gosh.
What if
You're on
everybody?
fire.
What if everybody on social media is wearing a mask
A lot of them are.
and their profile is a mask?
Mhm.
Kind of like I was talking about in that one episode. It was like, well, I got a Corona and there's a hot chick here and I'm on the beach. And so everyone just goes, that guy's got it going on. But the dynamics of that are just completely fake. And
Yeah,
it's like, it has nothing to do with reality. I don't even know this chick. And I quit drinking.
yeah.
So I'm not even drinking this Corona and I'm getting sunburned. But you know what? I'm going to just post this one picture and everyone's going to be like, dude,
A lot of people do that.
I feel like it
So
totally is that.
their online life looks like really great and everything, but then they're sitting on their couch while they're making the stories up and they're just
And
miserable.
what if that is the mentality that allows them to be fooled by,
Yeah. Because if they're putting out a picture of like, sitting on a beach with a Corona and like supposedly on vacation and
they're little deceivers.
they're
So
little
they get
deceivers. Yeah,
deceived.
they're deceiving all these other people and then meanwhile they're getting deceived.
Yeah, maybe that is the predicate for you get deceived if you're a deceiver.
Right.
Like maybe that's why you have to be in the Freemasons because maybe in order to be in the Freemasons, you have to like genuflect to the cult.
Right.
And then when you genuflect to the cult, now you're a part of this deception that the cult does. And so now you can be deceived. And so now you can be Sirhan and think, oh, dude, I went to the moon.
Hmm.
Didn't Buzz Aldrin like kind of accidentally say something weird one time?
Yeah. Have you seen that video where this little girl, they were, I guess he was giving an interview or something, and they had an audience, and this little girl said, "How come you haven't been back?" And he, which that's one of my questions too. And he says, "Well, we never went."
See, that was like, what
It was like
if,
he had a little glitch.
what if there's glitches in the MK
Yeah.
Ultra? Because maybe it's not foolproof. Because it seems like
I don't think it's foolproof.
the human mind
I
is
think
so complicated.
I think that's why they have handlers that have to go in and like kind of like fine tune them
Calibrate.
they have to calibrate. Yeah. Once in a while they need like a tune up and they
They
have to get
probably what that tune-up probably entails like trauma. They have to
yeah.
like
Yeah.
torture you a little bit and
Yeah.
then get you like, oh, and then you go,
Maybe
okay,
give you a
good.
little LSD, kind
Just
of
a little
fine
bit.
tune.
Or now I don't even think they use LSD. They probably just use all of these pharma happy pills.
Yeah.
Because these pharma happy
The
pills
one
seem really evil.
like the kind that like have side effects like suicide by hanging. Those
Suicide by hanging with the
those kind of
scarf on the doorknob. Or the other one that I notice is like very prevalent is incontinence. A lot of them cause you to be incontinent.
Oh, that's super weird. Like on the way here, I heard it. I was gonna actually bring this up that we should do a whole episode on all of the pharma and the side effects.
Yeah,
Because if you listen to these commercials, they have like random side effects. I mean, usually death is one of them, but they kind of put
death
that they
sucks.
put that towards the bottom of the list. Like so, by the time you get
Don't
to
worry about it.
you don't really hear. You're not you kind of tuned it out by the time they get to that part. But there's usually like all these other weird side effects that aren't very like they don't sound very fun. Like
Incontinence is pretty gnarly.
incontinence,
That
like
means you just
diarrhea,
you get
diarrhea
diarrhea.
and constipation.
Yeah,
I don't know how you can have both of those at the same time. But it's like, you might have one or
you have
the
a
other.
bad morning and a bad afternoon. It just sucks, you know? And I'm thinking, like, so when someone's hearing all the side effects, you notice how they rattle them off really fast.
Yeah. Diarrhea,
You
constipation.
know, exactly. And they say them all really fast. And then they say,
And you're like, what?
you might hang yourself with a scarf from a doorknob. But anyways, and then
And
here's how
death.
you order. Yeah, and death, and here's how you order. And then I think what the people, they just kind of don't hear that. And
Yeah.
they just go, oh,
They
oh,
just go, oh,
I want that.
I'm gonna lose 10 pounds. Go
Yeah.
ahead and inject my stomach with
And like
Gila Monster venom.
they're already kind of MK Ultra if they're going
Right.
to take that.
Yeah.
So the MK Ultra makes them just go, I want that. And they just completely tune out all of the side effects, which are all probably very real.
Yeah. So when they
That's
go
the only truth that you hear.
when they go and start having diarrhea,
Yeah.
they're okay with it.
Incontinence even worse. Incontinence means like I not only do I have diarrhea, but I can't control myself. Like you're just hanging out with your friend, all of a sudden you just go to the bathroom. Like, did you ever see that movie with Steve Martin, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels?
I don't
And it had
know.
Michael Caine. It was so funny, and they were just like con men. And he plays this retarded guy, and he's at the dinner table, and he goes, um, "Can I go to the bathroom?" And the guy goes, "Yes, you may." And he goes, "Thank you." And that's kind of like the MK Ultra people, like when they take these blue pills, you know,
Yeah.
because they're those. I'm starting to think that's the only time they're telling you the truth is when they tell you the side effects. They're like,
Right.
by the way, this is as real as like concrete. You know, you can hold this. That person's gonna get
Yeah.
incontinence, and they're probably gonna hang themselves with a scarf from the doorknob. So I'm thinking like when they see someone kind of going off the
Off the rails.
reservation,
Mhm.
they might Anhesh them.
Yeah.
They might just get Anheshed, or they just have a blue pill and they just give him another. Because sometimes maybe what happened with Buzz Lightyear is the little girl caused his blue pill to kind of glitch,
Yeah,
so
totally.
he had to get blue pill.
That one question was like something that they didn't expect, so
He
with
just all of a sudden like told the truth, and it
yeah.
was like, we can't have you doing that.
Well, I mean that question she asked is like legit, because I always wondered the same thing. I'm like, okay, they told us that we can't go, we haven't been back in all these years
It's 55 years later.
because they lost the technology. I mean, are they that bad of like their employees in the records department are that bad at keeping records that they lost the
They seem
technology?
to keep the technology that allows you to talk to the moon, though.
Yeah.
They kept that.
So they lost the technology. That seems like a really bad excuse. And
It seems like the technology is pretty big
it
for you
was
to just
pretty big.
lose it.
Yeah, it seems like it wouldn't be just like one little like notebook,
We
like
lost several buildings.
yeah, like one little notebook that was in a drawer somewhere, and then like maybe that person got
We
fired and
lost
took it with
huge labs and thousands of people. We just lost
and
them.
yeah, like there were like, probably 1,000 people working on this project or
Is that
more.
what they say? We lost the
We lost the
technology. We just
technology.
lost it. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't
But we
know.
were able to in that time, we were able to make cell phones and, smartphones and a lot of other technology, but that moon technology was way complicated, so we haven't really actually been able to reach.
Which begs the question then why?
Yeah.
Why? What were they accomplishing with that whole psyop?
Mhm.
What I think it was money laundering. It
I
had to
think so.
be.
I think it was oh my gosh.
Epiphany?
So, when was NASA established? Do you know?
Well, that Jet Propulsion Labs thing was going on in like the 20s.
Okay.
And then NASA was probably in the wake of World War II, like in the 50s, probably is when it first started.
Oh my gosh. So, yeah, I think it was a way for them to have a huge organization where they could just funnel in millions of dollars
Yeah.
and have everybody like on board with it. Like the whole world would think it was great,
Yeah.
and they could just have money coming in all the time.
And then when they'll have like, you know how we had this big space station drama where,
Yeah.
oh, the guy's stuck up there for eight
And
months.
he just happened to have enough food to get by. I think he was
Yeah.
growing potatoes or something up there.
That they cloned potatoes for him.
Yeah.
Anyways, he was a narrative. And he was a narrative to get people like reminded, by the way, we go to space and we
Yeah.
travel up there. We need money though. So your taxpayers, we're gonna have to have some money.
Sometimes we get stuck there, but
We
we're
don't
there.
we don't take care of homeless people, but we need to go to
Yeah.
space. And people are just like, okay, we're so I think that might be there's a two-pronged motive. The one motive is money, the other motive is science.
Mhm.
Hurry up and believe our science, because science is a religion.
It
It's a
is.
cult.
It
And
is.
they're like, hurry up and believe. And then, by the way, global warming.
Well, if you can believe that aspect of it, you could probably believe the global warming, the cooties, all the other stuff, you know?
Scarcity.
Scarcity.
That's like the other thing
I think
too.
we're gonna have an episode on
I think
scarcity.
so too, because that's kind of the science thing too.
Yeah.
The science thing is, oh my God, there's not enough for you to keep living. You need to die. Well, that was kind of a cool little
That was
rabbit hole.
that was definitely an
It was
interesting
like
rabbit hole. I feel like that rabbit hole goes even deeper, and we can dive deeper into it another time, but
I love how we like have Kathy O'Brien and the moon landing like in the same kind of, but they're tied in,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, because MK Ultra.
It's trauma-based mind control.
Have we done an entire episode on MK Ultra? I'm not sure we
No, we
have.
talk about it a lot.
We
We
talk
should probably just go ahead and
we
delve
should
into it.
probably do that. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
delve into that because MK Ultra, I think, might be
It's
kind of like,
gnarly.
well, I think it might kind of like be uh it's kind of the explanation of what's going on.
It is. And so we probably need to explain
Yeah.
and ask some more
Like, because you look
questions.
around and you look at people's behavior and you go, it's really bizarre. But
Mhm.
then when you think, well, MK Ultra, then you go, oh,
It
yeah,
kind
that
of
makes
answers a
sense.
lot of
It kind of
questions.
does.
Yeah. Well, that was fun.
That was awesome. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Okay.